a Playlyst original.
Welcome to the Pilot Podcast,
where we review the pilot episodes of TV shows to answer your question, should I watch this?
My name is BJ.
And my name is Mitu.
And this week, we're watching Sirens on Netflix, She the People on Netflix, The Librarians, The Next Chapter on TNT, and Murderbot on Apple TV+.
So stay tuned to the end to find out what kind of librarian BJ would be.
Okay, I'll have to keep thinking.
While you reflect, why don't you let us know what happened in Sirens on Netflix?
Devin, played by Megan Fahey, is concerned about her sister, Simone, played by Millie Alcock. Simone has a creepy relationship with her new boss, billionaire Michaela, played by Julianne Moore, and Devin decides it's time for an intervention. So, Mitu, what'd you think of this sister story?
Okay, taking a step back from the sisters, because Devin is right. Creepy is the central theme for me. The relationship between Simone and Michaela, or Kiki as she's allowed to call her, is so creepy, as is the relationship between Kiki and this larger community.
Yes, we see that Kiki really likes things in a particular way. She likes to rehabilitate birds of prey, and she has very little boundaries with Simone, but very hard boundaries with her staff.
Yes, we learned that house manager Jose, played by Felix Solis, and the rest of the crew even have a group chat without Simone because they recognize the degree to which she's under Kiki's thumb. And Simone is having an affair with the neighbor and knows that Kiki would be upset to learn about that. And the way Julianne Moore plays it across Kiki's face when she is clearly upset that she did not know that Simone had a sister was unnerving.
Actually, everyone at Kiki's home was surprised to learn about Devin and to learn that Simone has kind of withheld details about her backstory.
And let's talk about that home. When Devin is in Simone's suite, which on its face looks nice. It looks nice that she has the perk of this fancy suite on this compound in this billionaire's home. There are cameras in the suite so they can see what Devin is doing, because this whole episode, people ask her not to smoke. Yeah, and hear her. And then the doors lock you in. They don't lock people out. They lock you in.
It's safer that way.
Sure. Okay.
What if there's danger outside?
The danger was inside because it was also in Devin. That was the other wild thing to witness. Though I would say through her character, we get the most into the comedy part of this dark comedy, is that Devin is deeply unwell. This is chaos embodied in a human being, but she sees something is wrong with her sister, and the rest of this community is not recognizing or maybe refusing to recognize that Kiki is such a creepy and controlling character. But Devin is not in a position to then rescue Simone.
Exactly. Devin's heart is in the right place. She cares about her sister. She sees that Kiki is a little controlling, manipulative, has a weird vibe going on. And she really cares about their dad, who is going through dementia and needs extra support and wants to hear from Simone. But Devin does not have her life all together and has some poor coping mechanisms.
She literally leverages an affair with her boss to get him to help her dad while she's gone.
She also traded a cigarette for someone's body part on a boat.
I will say I genuinely laughed the most inappropriate laugh at this dark comedy when she said, "I told you dad had early onset dementia and you sent me a fruit basket," to Simone. The other thing that cracked me up is how much she and her dad enjoyed the fruit in the fruit basket.
I was about to say, they ate that fruit.
They ate it up. Like, it was a rude gesture, but it was clearly delicious.
Those strawberries seemed like they were really hitting.
They looked good. And then the other thing that made me laugh is when Devin sees the person that Simone is dating, or, dating, I say loosely, and she goes, "There's duckies on his blazer." And Simone responds, "I like his duckies." And Devin goes, "No, you like his Rolex." That made me laugh too.
You can like both.
Sure.
So me too. We've got creepy relationships, interesting backstories, some mysteries behind Kiki and what she's all about. Is that enough to get you to watch more episodes of Sirens on Netflix?
Absolutely. Messy hive, white women in distress genre hive. I know that we are here. This one is for us. This show was such a juicy and funny and dark story. And I really loved the play between Megan Fahey and Julianne Moore playing for power over the sister character. And I think that'll just be so interesting to watch because she's just so creepy. I'm talking about Michaela. We didn't even get into all the weird rituals we saw in the community.
That's true. That little poem scene.
Unnerving.
And I think that's why I would rate this Would Watch Again casually. I'm interested in the story. I really want to learn more about what got Simone into this job and maybe learn more of why she left home, because they hint at some issues, and that's why she's kind of avoiding her family. And so I think it's worth checking out. So how about we go from a creepy boss to someone trying to run to be the boss?
You're talking about She the People on Netflix. As she tries to shine in politics, Mississippi's first Black Lieutenant Governor, Antoinette, played by Terry Vaughn, must manage her zany family and overcome a governor who is stuck in the past.
So speaking of that zany family,
Yeah.
I'd say of the cast, Shamika, the cousin character played by Jade Nova, she's the one who stood out to me the most for being kind of wild, but caring and compassionate, but also silly at times.
Yes. She was fun to witness as the person encouraging Antoinette to stick up for herself, though she herself was one of the people that Antoinette needed to stand up to.
Yes, she is part of the problem, but she's also helping Antoinette see there is a problem.
She also does the thing, because I forgot to call the show by its full name, which is Tyler Perry's She the People, where at 5 minutes and 55 seconds into the show, she does deliver the first gay joke at the expense of Antoinette's ex-husband when she said, "I knew you swung the other way," when he was recommending that she contact a friend of his who's a campaign manager. So she also delivered that part, which is a classic TP comedy moment.
That is the challenge with this, what did you describe them as, zany family?
Mm-hmm.
The cousin and the cousin's boyfriend and the mother, who are spending most of the episode with Antoinette, they are a mess.
Yeah.
And they are not helping Antoinette, who I think does have like a good goal that she's aiming for.
Yeah.
But no one around her, especially we open with a news scene. That news anchor was trying to tear her apart as well.
I thought that was a clever way to introduce her and the people around her pretty efficiently in the interview, the person asking her questions, and of course for comedy, the contrasting scene playing as she's remembering the real moments while delivering the campaign answers. We also witness, and her mom, played by the legend Jo Marie Payton, Cleo is passing out flyers at funerals and intends to do so at the strip club. I honestly thought great campaign strategy.
Clever. Reach out to untapped markets.
Reach one to teach one.
Maybe don't put a flyer in a casket. That person can't vote.
That's that TP twist.
He's always doing something different. That's his style. Break the mold and stick to his own mold.
Because I was going to say, this show is led by a tired, overworked single mom who wants good for herself and her community. So, you know, there is certainly some same there.
But not a lieutenant governor.
And I love Terry Vaughn.
And not Mississippi that I'm aware of.
That's true. Not that I can remember.
So see, fresh.
We also have, sort of within the TP classics, is this teenager who's acting out.
Yes, Lola, played by Drew Olivia Tillman, is the rebellious daughter character who thinks that this whole election lieutenant governor thing is a bad idea or a dumb idea, and is also rebelling against both parents by sneaking out to a party. And the way that party ends what's the best way to describe it? It is good for Antoinette.
Tyler Perry said you can take your gentle parenting and stuff it. That's how that party ended for me. But I do have a question for you, because something that happens in a viral video at a party, I will just sort of use the light spoiler of Antoinette assaulting a child, does help get her elected.
Yes.
We know that she's elected because in the premise of the show, she's listed as the lieutenant governor.
Uh-huh.
What time are dark out parties with kids, late night? What time is that? Because polls typically close at like 6, 7, sometimes 8 p.m.
Maybe this is like fall where it gets a little darker earlier.
Okay.
This is like an 8 p.m. party.
So enough people were clued into a child's live stream somewhere.
This is probably an influencer child.
Okay. That they were able to get in line in time before cutoff for a Mississippi polling place.
Some regions, if you're in line, you will get to vote.
Yeah, but a lot of these people showed up because they saw Antoinette assaulting a child.
They were nearby.
Oh, okay. I will say, interestingly, one of the executive producers on this is former Atlanta mayor and presidential advisor and appointee, Keisha Lance Bottoms.
So me too. What would you rate She the People on Netflix?
What I will say is She the People is a great concept, and it is a fantastic cast.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot keep watching this show because it just doesn't feel like it is doing its story and its cast justice.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it is a would not watch again. It is a 24-minute pilot, and about 10 minutes into it, I texted a friend that I felt tired, like I had just run up a hill.
It, unfortunately, doesn't do anything Tyler Perry hasn't done before.
Yes.
We did try and highlight some fresh twists, the political nature, the state. But at its core, it is just another version of the same story. And I think as the years go on, you're not going to be able to keep people's attention with that same story. So I would not watch again.
I mean, he doesn't need us. He's so successful. But I just think about how fun the show concept is, and I see that he co-created it with someone else, but it's still primarily written and directed by him. And I think with the creative ideas that he has, I just imagine he'd go so far by bringing in an additional writer or two. I think that could be so cool.
If he was just like the pitch man or the idea storyboard man,
yes,
you could go far.
Because the concept here is fun, because it's like The Oval, but a comedy. It's a great concept. All right, Beej, well, why don't you take us from Mississippi to Serbia?
You're talking about The Librarians, the next chapter on TNT. In this spinoff of the original series, a librarian named Vikram, played by Callum McGowan, time travels from the past to now find himself stuck in Serbia. And when he returns to his castle, which is now a museum, he inadvertently releases magic across the continent. So me too. Are you excited to see another story in the Librarians universe?
To my knowledge, I don't think I've ever seen The Librarians.
We reviewed the first series.
Okay, yeah. So I knew you would say something like that and embarrass me, because you could have said that before we started recording, but that's helpful that we did it on microphone. So I don't recall the Librarian series, I guess. But
didn't stick with you.
didn't stick. But what I will say is I liked Vikram as this kooky, out of time, anachronistic librarian. He really felt like Doctor Who to me, especially when we have this closing scene where he encounters this kind of monster character. I don't want to do too many spoilers, but there are things that happen with that character that feel ripped from Doctor Who in a way that is positive. I say that like as a compliment. It was like fun and campy, and it felt very Doctor Who.
I can see that. And I like that they didn't lean too far into him adjusting to this time period.
Yeah.
You do have the Man Out of Time storyline where he is getting up to speed with what's going on with the library, but otherwise he's focused on the case of the week. He's ready to use magic, which is breaking some of the rules, to stop magic, which he also released.
Yeah, he did it, but he's going to clean it up by continuing to do the thing that he wasn't supposed to do that will continue to cause messes.
And he's going to have a team help him along the way.
And it was nice to see that team work together. We have the unwitting heir who has the castle. We have the Harvard-trained conspiracy theorist. We have this, tough guardian. So we have this interesting group of people that has come together, and I genuinely enjoyed and was entertained by seeing them apply their different skills to solving this mystery.
Right. And I think it really repeats a lot of what we saw in the previous library series.
Totally. I remember that.
Everyone has their specialty.
Mm-hmm.
The guardian is good at fighting. One person is a bit nerdy and knows science.
Yeah.
One person's a little bit more into history and knows what already happened and how that can apply.
Duh.
And then in this case, we have someone a little more unpredictable and who's thinking outside the box.
How does this, for you, compare with Librarians OG?
It's consistent.
Okay.
It's more of the same. And I don't necessarily know if it's adding anything different. I think it really is just now we're in Serbia.
So maybe your critique is similar to that of the one for Tyler Perry's She the People, where they would have benefited from bringing something a little bit new.
Yes, for library fans like myself, I would like something a little newer, and maybe it'll get to that point. But I also think kind of repeating that tried and true premise is good for bringing in new fans.
I certainly was interested in the mystery. I thought they set up a good one.
I'm interested. I will say it was a little bit of a weak premise. Lysa, played by Olivia Morris, sees a portrait of someone who looks like her with different eyes in a castle that she inherited. So someone like me would assume that's your ancestor. But we're told explicitly this is mysterious and strange.
Yeah, I'm certainly not a scientist. I've never done 23andMe, but I can imagine, if I were to inherit a castle from some relative and I see a portrait that looks like me of someone my age in the portrait, I think I could draw what is needed to complete that picture.
Or you'll ask a librarian.
Yeah, or I'll ask a group of people with access to the mythical library for them to figure out what is my connection to this portrait. Why do we look alike?
Because you do have a well of magic in your basement now.
That's true. What an addition. How do you list that on Zillow?
She was trying to figure out how to sell that castle.
How do you flip that?
So while you decide how to sell this on House Hunters, have you decided what you would rate the Librarians the next chapter on TNT?
I would watch while cooking dinner.
Okay.
I think it is fun and kooky, and it makes me think of Doctor Who. But I don't know that I could watch seriously or even casually because I'm just not as familiar with the Librarians' lore. I don't think I have enough buy-in for it. But for the case of the week, I think that's fun, and that'll be nice to have on my iPad while I make a meal.
I think that's reasonable. I would watch again casually, even though it doesn't feel as fresh as I would like. It is more Librarians. I've been in it since the TV movies, then the TV series. Now we got another series. So I'm just happy the franchise is continuing.
Shout out.
So how about you tell us about a franchise that's based on a book?
You're talking about Murderbot on Apple TV+. This series is set in a high-tech future where we meet a rogue security robot played by Alexander Skarsgård, who secretly gains free will. To stay hidden, it reluctantly joins a new mission protecting scientists on a dangerous planet, even though it just wants to binge space soap operas.
I feel like you can relate to that last part.
I get it. When he said, I like this show and I have watched 7,532 hours of content since, I understood that deeply.
How do you feel about being in the head of a robot who named itself Murderbot?
Here's what I will say. The inner monologue was funny. It was mostly funny. And I thought it was a really smart way to introduce the team that he's eventually connected with. It was so funny to hear him say, this person is an enhanced human, but he's not as smart as I am. And this person is married to this person, but one of them wants to sleep with this person who wants to sleep with the other one. And I thought that was so juicy. The thing about the lead scientist having too many kids, according to the robot's thoughts, that line made me laugh.
It's just 7.
He said 5,000 or something. That made me laugh a lot. So I enjoyed watching the show through him. I thought it was a really smart way to efficiently, in under half an hour, introduce the stakes and introduce this group. The dialogue did start to drag a little bit for me. It was like a little bit too much.
It was a lot of time spent in his head. And I did like how he introduced the crew, the scientific crew he's with. And I have to say, I like Murderbot more than the crew.
Yeah.
I know they're being played up as like hippies and unconventional, and they like to dance to weird music.
Yes.
But I think there wasn't enough for him to play off of in this first episode, despite being such an interesting character.
My hope is that we had a lot of inner dialogue him and a lot of like brief intros of this group, which is why all we know really is too many kids, possible pending affairs, and hippie dances. My hope is that as the show develops, because they have this now relationship where, and this is the premise of the show, this is in the premise of the show, it's a light spoiler, they know something is up with this Murderbot, and he obviously does not want to reveal that to them. So there's this mutual fear of him not wanting to be found out and of them knowing something is up and not wanting to challenge him. So I think there's going to be more room as episodes go forward for a better dialogue where these people become fuller characters and he has more to play off of, because he is a really fun character, but I don't think the whole show should be, and I don't think it will be, just like him thinking.
Right. And I will say what helped me, despite that criticism, understand the pacing better. Some people online who have read the books said that this pilot episode really was just the first chapter of the book. So they seem to be going at the same pace as the book version, which explains why we spent so much time in his head. To me, it explains it.
That must be nice for Book Hive.
Yeah. And it also make it easier for them to see the differences.
That's true. It makes it harder for Apple TV staff, not Hive, who put this show together. And one more thought on this show is I loved the show within the show. His favorite show that he figured out how to hack and start watching in his helmet, that cracked me up. Stellar cast.
And you are Star Trek Hive.
That's true. Well, I watched a couple of them, yeah.
You know characters and lore.
Yes, I do.
So me too. Will you stick around to learn about the characters and lore of Murderbot on Apple TV Plus?
Yes, I will keep watching casually. If you're a comedy Hive, even if you're not sci-fi Hive, this one's funny. And Alexander Skarsgård is funny to watch. And for like Big Little Lies Hive, this is a departure from how we've seen him, which is nice. So I will watch again casually, and I would recommend the same for Comedy Hive. And you let me know what the nerds and Sci-Fi Hive think.
I can't speak on behalf of all nerds and sci-fi fans, but I would watch again casually. And I think you make a good point. This is more comedy in a sci-fi setting than a sci-fi that is funny.
Yeah.
So I think if you appreciate a good comedy, don't let the future setting put you off from giving it a shot.
Yeah, just because it's led by a robot doesn't mean you will not be able to follow this and hee hee ha ha.
Exactly. So me too, you wanted to know what kind of librarian I would be?
Yes.
I feel like I would want to be in the rare book room.
Okay.
And maybe like preservation of the rare books.
I was thinking the same. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, maybe curate some displays of these are our latest old books.
Latest old books is such a funny oxymoron. But I get what you're saying. I think that'd be really cool. Like our newest finds.
And do you want to share with our listeners what you would do as a librarian?
Well, BJ said I would probably be a bad librarian because I'd find a cozy corner and start reading and probably take my name tag off so that people do not recognize me as staff so I can be left alone to read. And I don't necessarily disagree. I do think there is something to a very close friend clipping your wings
Oh,
about how you would do at a job.
I think when our supervisor shows up, you would put that name tag back on and be standing right at that front desk.
Very helpful. Very ready to help.
I'd send you a little text, buzz, buzz. You're right there.
And that's the system.
It's a lot of work for me, but yeah.
All right. Well, this one's easier. Why don't you tell our listeners where they can find more episodes of the Pilot Podcast?
More work for me. Head to our website at thepilotpodcast.com, and you can follow us on all of your favorite podcast platforms.
You can also follow us on social media at The Pilot Pod, and you can send thoughts, feelings, show recommendations, because every other week we do a show recommended by you, our wonderful listeners, to askthepilotpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.
Bye.